Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to Sound Pollution. This is episode 56 featuring Sound Animal. As usual, we are going to discuss their background, inspirations, and the stories behind 3 of her tracks. We are also going to discuss why Sound Animal likes to bend and incorporate multiple genres into her music, how anything can be a drum or an instrument, as well as their songwriting process. Please remember to click those links below and show this artist some love. Here we go. All right, so everybody, I am here with Sound Animal, and why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners?
Well, hello, listeners. I am indeed Sound Animal, coming to you from Berkeley.
You seem to dabble in several genres. Why don't you explain your sound a little bit?
Yeah, I do definitely. I think part of it is that my sound doesn't really lend itself very easily to any genre exactly. And so I can say, well, this song has aspects of this genre and this song has aspects of that genre. I'm very familiar with lots of genres, but it's still kind of hard to place my own music in one very squarely because it tends to be a bit experimental and
Right.
Yeah, so my sound though, so it's very different from song to song, really, really different. But I would say a lot of my sound is kind of beyond words. Like if I sing, it's a little bit more animal-esque, a little bit more just feral. And if I'm playing music, it may be a bit stompy and raucous and, wild and loud and noisy, but that's just a bit of my sound. There's just so much more. Like sometimes I do one guitar, electric guitar, playing a dirge or a march or something, and get kind of sludgy sounds with it. And other times I might do a lot of drone music. So with drone, you want to have one note that's sustained for a while, and the subtle changes during that sustained period then become really interesting if the person's doing it right, and they can have multiple sounds within that one note. And so then with drone music, a lot of times there's multiple notes played at once with drone instruments.
Why this specific type of music? What was it that drew you to this?
I don't know. I think they just get me, my body responds. I get really excited by it. And I'd like a lot of music that incorporates those elements. And, to me, it's just really exciting. And so it's something that I can also do. And I love emotional effect of playing noise music. It's really kind of hedonistic. And
okay, yeah, I definitely can hear that.
Yeah, like with, there's different types of noise music. So some people, the very experimental, harsh noise would be just usually electronic or something, just a bunch of sounds that somebody has figured out an interesting way to create. And there's no melody, there's no guitar, it's just like,
yeah,
like that, right? That's not really quite what I make or what I listen to that much. Although I admire people who do it. But it's more of a melodic guitar noise. For example, when I was a kid, my favorite record was this one where you just raid your parents' kitchen and you just steal all their pots and pans and you bang on them. And I'm sure my parents didn't think that was their favorite record.
Oh, but so many parents have heard that record.
I know, it's like
you've heard that. It's how you know.
So that's just, it's like, so I'm still doing that. And I love to just play whatever I can get my hands on. And I went through a phase of maybe 20 years of making these, I just dated myself there, but
I dated myself before this recording. So
so I went through a phase of an unspecified time of making.
So it's over. I'm leaving it in.
No going back now.
No, make peace with that one.
Of making little comedy movies for fun, with friends, and we would make our own music. And so we became this, we called ourselves like this band, and we made these different albums. And, I used those and did a lot of stuff with it, just, putting it with music videos and everything. And I went to Romania, and I taught students some things, one of which was how to make noise music. And so I got to play some of our music that we had made, and then I got to show them how to do it. And when we would make this music, we never used an instrument. We just played whatever we could find, and it sounded, very interesting. So I got these students in Romania, it's like at first they were like really kind of uptight and serious and did not want to like start throwing things around. But by the time we were done with, a lesson, and they were just like throwing stuff and loving jumping up and down and spinning around and banging things together. And it's like whooping and hollering. And it's like, yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. I still like that, I still just love to bang stuff together.
And was there something or someone you heard specifically that was like, oh my gosh, I have to do that?
Well, when I was in, I think it was junior high, I had been really only interested in classical music. I kept going with that. I used to have a flute scholarship. I would do singing contests around the state and always win first place. I would do German lieder. I was very serious about, and there's a lot of the classical romantic period really more in my music. But then in school, I saw this movie that they just like impulsively, somebody just realized like, no, these kids have to see this. They have to see this right now. So they just pulled us all out of class in the middle of class and took us into this auditorium and showed us this movie. So there was the large glass sculpture, and then there was Merce Cunningham's modern dance troupe dancing around it to the music of John Cage. And so John Cage's music, it's just like, this was this huge revelation to me. And at that moment, my life changed. It's like, should I go off and run away and join Merce Cunningham's dance troupe, or, what should I do? But I just followed that.
Talking about that, let's jump into the first song. Let's talk about Botulism Cafe. How did that come about?
I think that just kind of came out with that general impulse of wanting to bang on stuff and make a ruckus and create something that was going to really excite people and get them feeling it in their bodies and excited to be alive and like be an animal and be uncivilized. And so I already had the title because I have a lot of fun with my housemate. We make up a lot of songs, or like improvise. They may sound like a gospel song or something, on the tune, but they're not. And so I had brought up like Botulism Cafe to him, and so that just became one of our little scenarios. Like we had all these ridiculous scenarios that we go into and play with and have characters that we make up and stuff. So we had already run with this Botulism Cafe for a couple months. So it's like, so many things can fit into that, like ordinary conversation, Botulism Cafe comes up. So yeah, I got to make that into a, avant-garde metal or whatever you'd want to call it song. It's just pretty, I like titles that are pretty grim and like grim with kind of like a humor to them.
Yeah, I caught on to that.
I like to imitate a lot of sounds with my guitar. That's a big part of my sound, is that it's very much mimicking things. So like I have one song where it's mimicking a bell tower in a storm.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I listened to that.
Thank you. And so to make that one, I was imitating the bell with the guitar. And then I was also imitating the storm. I try to be as lo-fi as I can whenever possible. So I was imitating the storm by taking found objects, which is a major part of my work, is found objects. So I took these tennis ball containers with tennis balls inside of them and shook. And so it go, so it sounds like the wind is beating against this large piece of canvas, which is, luckily I found a picture of a bell tower that has a big piece of canvas on it. And then I took a piece of plastic, very thin, big piece of plastic, and then just wavered that in front of the microphone, creating a lot of that, like the thing that you normally try to avoid with a microphone, right? The air going into it. It's like to create a lot of air going into it and sound. And so, yeah, I just like to imitate things a lot. So there's a bit of the botulism, botulism sound, if anybody wants to like actually take it literally.
So we talked a little bit about what kind of got you started in music, and you mentioned John Cage. Do you have any other musical influences that kind of jumped to your mind?
The romantic composers that I was listening to back then, I mean, I was playing them as well as, playing them on my flute and stuff and singing them. Like Sibelius, those kind of guys. But then those people, they moved, as time went on, then there was this atonal thing with people like Schoenberg, and the way that they would not hit a note, they would explore all the territory between notes and not just go by, this is a note, this is a note, this is a note.
Right.
And so I like to explore dissonance. People like Schoenberg, where they would explore the atonal music and outside of the typical boundaries of what's normal. I would say right now I'm really most influenced in terms of the experimental stuff with the noise bands like Casper Brotzmann. He is just amazing. So if I'm mastering my work, I'll use his music as the reference because I want it to sound like that. It's just this wild cacophony of just going nuts. And then when it comes to drone, like, Dylan Carlson is just such a deity to me. The way that he'll just draw this music out, and like I was walking along the other day and I was thinking, I was listening to him on headphones, and he was just doing the same thing over and over. It's like pretty much three notes. He'd been doing it for 20 minutes, and it's like, man, I hope nobody needs to interrupt me and talk to me, because it's like, no, I cannot stop in the middle of the song. I have to hear Carlson do his next, iteration of that same drawn out.
I need to know where he's going with this. Do not interrupt me.
I know where he's going. Like, I hear it every day, I know where I can stop.
So other than tennis balls and a tube and all that, you said the flute and the guitar how many instruments do you play?
I have had and played just an ungodly number of instruments, hundreds, but I didn't have any of those, and so I've been starting to add some back. So I play the mouth organ from Laos, mm-hmm. and a double shepherd's flute, very kind of advanced kind of jaw harp. I have it's a one of a kind 3-stringed lap steel slide guitar. It's like
that sounds cool.
Stick. Yeah, it's really interesting. And a couple dulcimers, mm-hmm. and like I sleep with dulcimers, I lie there in bed in the dark playing the dulcimer night after night. And silver flute, and I have a Boran drum that I play a lot, which is like a Celtic hand drum. And
I know I want one.
Oh yeah, they're really nice. Huh?
They have a nice sound. So what is your writing process like? Because like experimental doom noise, it doesn't, to me, feel like it has the same, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. It has its own way of moving. So how do you go about writing that?
Those kinds of elements I enjoy when I'm listening to songs like that, but that's definitely a different kind of journey than what my music takes. It's different for every song, but most often what I've done is I'll play a song and record myself and then just keep doing it again and again, to where each recording is a little bit different, but it's going to be similar, but with a little bit of improvisation as it goes, and then pick which version of that particular song that I think is the best. So sometimes I might do 30 versions or something. So that would be mostly for like the ones that I have that are just guitar. I've gone through that process with them, like Mime's Elegy, for example. With that one, I found out that a friend had died, and so I wanted to connect with him and celebrate his life. And so I used a lot of intense vibrato on it. That's a very emotional thing. Like the more intense vibrato I'm using this, the more I'm feeling stuff. But then other times, I may not go through 30 versions of a song. I may get it to where I really like it and then just keep adding layer after layer. Some layers may be all guitar or bass, and other layers may include silver flute and bodhrán, and grabbing whatever is around and playing that and singing. Often we'll end up with, maybe 70 stems that I'm working with to edit, and so it can take a little while to get everything to where it fits together.
So let's then jump into this next song, because now that you've talked about your writing process a little bit, I think I can kind of hear it in some of your tracks. Tell me about Skyfall.
Skyfall is the last one that I made. So I always liked the last one that I made. It's a safe
Is
one.
there like a reason for just specifically you like the last one?
It's always whatever is the last one I like. And then whatever came before that, I don't like so much.
You're like, I'm done. I'm done with that now.
So Skyfall, I don't know if everybody experiences this, but for me, technology is just not what it's cracked up to be. So, these things that are supposed to work will not work. The technology of the computer and the amp and the DAW and and everything going together, it just will not work. So when it gets to the moment where it's like, oh, I can do it, and I can use USB so that people don't hear me, I can go wild with it. Like, whereas moments before it wasn't working, and having a bunch of like frustration built up and then having a sudden outlet for that. I've always found that to be a really good method of creating music. So like when my friends would come visit in rural Alabama and we would just go wild making music, it would be so hedonistic because I had been dampening down my emotions and been very lonely and quiet and normal and everything for months out there, and then they're here and it's like, wow, I can go wild now. So Skyfall was a bit like that, like, oh, I finally got the technology to work, okay, wow. It starts with lots of guitar, and I thought maybe it should all be guitar, because part of it sounds like it is guitar, but it sounds kind of like a mouth organ. So I decided, no, I'm going to add mouth organ to where hopefully you can't really tell which one's which, and then like play flute, which hopefully also will kind of blend in together. So it's like sort of guitar, sort of mouth organ, sort of flute sound. And so one of the ways I was playing the guitar on one of the tracks, it's very similar to how I jam. Like when I jam with people, I get, really aggressive with the music. So I was doing that with the guitar. So I was kind of using it like using the strings kind of like a drum. And so it's got this, bum, 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 bum. To have that playing really loud in my headphones, it's just super exciting. Like, oh, that's great. I'm overwhelmed by this like loud noise everywhere, and I'm happy and life is good. So, but it's kind of an ominous song. So, kind of thought of, the sky is falling sort of theme.
Hey everyone, there's a new season of Sound Pollution coming your way. I know it's been a really rough 18 months and we are not out of the dark yet, but I'm going to keep bringing you new independent artists, their music, and their stories, as well as some updates from fabulous musicians that have been here before. I will be introducing you to the occasional guest co-host this fall as well. Will I find a permanent partner for the show? If you're interested in being a guest musician on Sound Pollution or want to co-host an episode, shoot me a message at soundpollutionpodcast.com or soundpollutionpodcast@gmail.com. Be love and make some noise. Typically, I ask somebody if they enjoy writing or performing more, but you don't perform your music live. Why is
Right.
that?
Um,
Is it just because you haven't had the opportunity, or it's like, nah, I don't want to?
I don't really think I want to. It's like with when you're making something that has 70 different stems to
Right.
create, like how would you really perform that,
You'd almost need to have an orchestra of these
Mm-hmm.
odd instruments, which would be cool to see,
Mm-hmm. It
but
would be cool.
it doesn't sound very easy to put together.
No. It would be very hard to perform the kind of music that I make, but performing music has never really been an interest for me so much. Like if I could be in Swan's band, for example, like I love post metal, and particularly where post metal here hits noise, like that band. If I could be in a band like that and get up there and bang stuff, I would love that. Like I have played in bands, but I played percussion. Just to do it on my own, I think it would be impossible to translate to people, but I also have never had like, a lot of people when they think, oh, I'm going to pick up an electric guitar and I'm going to play metal and stuff, they probably are thinking, yeah, that's how I can get the chicks and, get cool and get a bunch of drugs or whatever. And it's like, no, I've never had those kinds of associations or desires with it. So, I don't have like the typical like pop culture draw to performing.
Music for you is about the creation.
Mhm. Yeah, I had to get into it. I mean, I had not played music for a while, and I didn't even think that I was going to go back into making music, but I just got so enamored of these certain combinations of notes. Like there's this band called Arena in Spain, and they have a song called Eclipse. And I would just listen to this song over and over, and there's just this relationship between these certain notes that seems like that's what the song is about for much of it. They're just going into those few notes and just trying, like, how about if we do it just this note and this note, but just slightly different pausing and timing and loudness on this note, and change to this note. I mean, it was just like a mathematical deconstruction of this, and I wanted to be able to do that myself. Like I felt like I had to live inside music. I had to be able to deconstruct what is it about those particular notes in that particular order, and how can I just make music that explores those notes until I'm done. Because feeling like I was outside of the music, I just couldn't stand it. It's like when you love somebody, you want to be merged with them. You don't want to be separate.
Let's talk about the last song, Walk Your Mastodon. First thing,
Walk your
tell me
Mastodon.
about how you came up with the name for that, because that's great. That should be the
And,
name of a band.
well, there is a band called Mastodon.
Yeah, but there's
And
something about walking a
walk,
mastodon, like the
yeah.
visual for me.
Uh-huh,
I'm like, yep, I want
uh-huh.
one.
Yeah. So I wanted it to be kind of Macedonish. Not There's a whole bunch of songs that are kind of Macedonish in the doom world. It's like there's this giant animal stomping through the forest and everything's reverberating. And I don't have a drum set. If I had a drum set and I did not live in an apartment, man, I would be going to town on that. I used to have a drum set in my apartment back in the day, and I used to play it a lot.
I'm sure the
Uh,
neighbors love that.
yeah, I know. So I have to consider the neighbors, and I have to be, somewhat quiet. So I don't scream like I would like to for the music. Everybody was gone. So I was like, all right, I can walk my Macedon now. It's kind of about, not being too, well, don't be coy and sweet, walk your Macedon. That's the lyrics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I can be kind of like, if I feel like, oh no, people are skipping my songs too much on Bandcamp, I can look at the statistics and think, oh, that's not a good song, and I'll just lose my confidence. And it's like, nope, don't be coy
Don't
and
do
sweet.
that.
Walk your Mastodon, just like
Yeah.
make your music, and just don't care. And just you want to make your music as good as you can, but like you can't get too caught up in the reception at the moment of a particular song and have it take you down emotionally, right? So
Right.
but this song is like, for whatever anybody listening to it, if they're starting to feel kind of sensitive or self-critical or shy or whatever, hopefully listening to the song will get them up, like, no, I'm going to go back into my like confident, assertive mode. I love that. I love making music out of that mode. And I think when I hear music made out of that confident mode, it helps me too. So that was kind of the goal with that. So I actually have a t-shirt, and my good friend Steve, who is also my collaborator on some of the music, he has a Walk Your Mastodon t-shirt as well. It's, I think, like the art that I commissioned for that, and like, worked with the artist. This is what I want. No, not like that, and
Mm-hmm.
got it just right. I feel like that image is part of the song. It should be a poster or something, but at least it's a mask, and it's a little stash bag, and it's a t-shirt and stuff. So maybe one day people will be walking around wearing Walk Your Mastodon t-shirts, and just they're having their best day because of it.
Walk your Mastodon. Don't be coy and sweet. Walk your Mastodon.
So if you couldn't be a musician, if you couldn't do music, what would you do?
Well, I'd probably do what I do,
You
which
do
is
do?
I do. Um, well, so I write novels. My
Oh,
last
cool.
novel is about musicians. It's about neo-psych musicians. So I wrote this novel. I have lots of things that I've written, and I teach fiction writing. I'm a manuscript editor and such. So and I used to be an artist, visual artist. So I pretty much have done all the things that I want to do, and I am still doing them. So I'm very fulfilled artistically. And
So you'd still just be doing something creative. You just do
mhm.
something else. So do you have any other shout outs besides the gentleman who's wearing your shirt?
So Steve, the man wearing my shirt, is very important really to this whole thing. Like I don't know if I could be doing all this without him. For one thing, when I make music, I will send it to him, and sometimes I don't send him something and then regret it. But he's got a really good ear. Then he'll give me thumbs up, or sometimes there's a suggestion, like, and he is we just we'll send each other music that we love, and we get excited about it. And so I feel like having a person like that who's musically involved with me is just core to being able to do it. And then there's also Tom McCarthy, who plays guitar too, that I have collaborated with. And then there's some other people in the works, some collaborations.
Awesome. And what about websites, social media? Do you want to shout out any links before I let you go?
Well, on Pinterest, I have a lot of different music divided into genres. Sound Animal on Pinterest, and then otherwise, my Sound Animal website is the hub for everything. So, people can go to that and then find their way to Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and they have a Pandora channel for me, which makes me really tickled. So it's sound/animal.com.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Sound Animal. I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to be with me and my listeners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to Sound Pollution this week. I want to thank Sound Animal again for being a guest on the show. Make sure y'all click those links below. Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, and friend Sound Pollution on all listening platforms and any social media. If you're interested in co-hosting an episode or being a guest on the show, please email me at soundpollutionpodcast@gmail.com or directly on the website, which is soundpollutionpodcast.com. Also, please keep an eye out for an update that will come to you live on social media this Friday. Get vaccinated, be love, and make some noise.